Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Straight Out of BPS podcast with Rudy and Jamari. I am Rudy Looters, and on this journey with me is the one and only.
Jamari Jones, everybody. Um, Thank you for introducing me. Um, so just to get out some logistics, please don't forget to check us out on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, Anchor, Facebook. We are on all social media platforms. Please don't hesitate to share, comment, subscribe. It really helps us out. And we would really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. How you doing today, Jamari?
I'm doing pretty good, Rudy. Thanks for asking, man. We are on vacation, so April vacation. So
Okay.
I get to kind of clear my head, and I know that everyone needed that space. So I'm excited to just have a full week off to kind of just relax. How about yourself?
Well, I don't have a full week off. I'm still working, but I did have a long weekend, and Monday was off. So I am, you know, I'm doing good. It's busy, but so I try to find time for myself to recharge and get back to it. So yeah, I'm doing good.
Definitely. I hear that. I hear that. So we are gonna be getting into our views on the latest news.
Mhm.
We have the verdict of Derek Chauvin, the case of George Floyd, which he was murdered by Derek Chauvin, and he was convicted of murder. Um, and we'll go back and talk about it. I just want to list everything first. And Mejia Bryant, a 15-year-old girl, young woman, that was also murdered by the police. And then we're gonna talk about attacks on Asian hate, and Asian hate that's been going on. Something that we've been wanting to mention on the show, and I think this is definitely an appropriate time to get into that. Um, so Derek Chauvin, Rudy, you know, there has been a lot of people are happy about the verdict, and relieved that he was convicted of murder, because we don't always see this for police officers, and it kind of has brung a lot of relief to a lot of people in the community, but we still have a lot more work to do.
Um, so he's guilty, guilty, guilty. He was found guilty on all three counts.
Mm-hmm.
And each count has their I know one count has a 40 year maximum. So I think he's looking at a total of 75 years.
Yeah.
So yes, for the first time in a long time, um, this was the right verdict, but you also got to think that, like, relieving those moment. And again, I think throughout the trial, like, there was a few kids who were um in the court, and they had to um keep them away because, like, they couldn't mention their name, like we didn't see what they looked like. Just having, like, kids in the courtroom testifying about this murder, it's just like I think about the long-term trauma. Like, those kids, yeah, they're gonna need our help, our love and support,
Yeah.
because this was not easy. So I'm just glad, because but it's I don't know if it's a sense of relief because, like, a few hours later, Malika Bryant got shot, and and she called for help. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's it just, like, I don't know how to feel. Like, just like,
Yeah.
yes, this was major. We also gotta thank Daniela Frazier because without her recording this picture like 9 minutes and 29 seconds, I think,
Yeah,
like we will not have gotten that verdict.
yeah,
And I say all the time, the digital age is the greatest threat to
yeah,
supremacy because you cannot dismiss like tangible evidence, like a video, like when it's clear.
yeah,
So I would say like I'm happy. Then I'm like it's like it's not clicking.
yeah,
It's not clicking. Like
yeah. I think that, with something directly happening right after the verdict, it's kind of like, what the heck? We go from one situation to another. And I had the chance to watch the video of Mejia, of the video of what happened. I don't suggest people watching it. But I felt when I was watching, there was no de-escalation like of the situation. It was kind of the officer was just reacting in a sense and already pulling up to the situation with kind of like his gun drawn and stuff, or ready to react. So I feel like, you know, it was just like she was in, and I hate to say this, like an animal, you know what I mean? And
I'm not surprised
um
how they see us.
right. And so it was just disheartening to see. And I wonder if, going back to, the verdict, I wonder if he's gonna do all his time. You know what I mean?
The 75 years.
Yeah, the 75 years. Is he gonna actually
I
do all
mean,
that time? You know what I mean? Um,
yeah, like I think yeah he should. He
yeah,
should.
I think he should. Will the system make him because
Well,
he's an officer? You know?
we definitely. I think we're gonna find out in 8 weeks or so. But
Yeah,
also, I gotta also the other officers, like they also need to be found guilty. They
yeah,
might not be need a 75 years, like Derek got, but they definitely need to be held accountable.
accountable. Yeah.
It's justice and accountability,
Hmm.
and yeah, so and the work continue, like we each need to do our part to not even reform, dismantle white supremacy,
Yeah.
which has the core everything, um which bring us to all the Haitian hate happening
Hmm.
around, as black people, we like
We stand with them.
we stand with them, like
Yeah.
um we like it's so crazy some of this thing I see happening. And sometimes when I see a person of color do it, I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why? Like, we facing the same oppression,
Hmm.
and the thing about it, when two groups are facing the same oppression, they want to emulate the oppressor.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the wrong way to go about it. So we
Yeah.
stop the Asian community, stop the hate, uh let's fight the real enemy, which is white supremacy.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that I definitely agree with you on is that we are all facing the same oppressor, right? Like, we are trying to dismantle the white supremacy type of thinking,
Yeah.
and we should not be working against one another, but working with one another. So I am all for that, and I want to just echo what you just said. Is just like, we're standing with our Asian community against Asian hate,
Yeah.
and we are in this with you together.
Yeah.
Um, One of the things that I saw, and I know we got to move on. on social media was there was this guy on the news saying that, we will start taking, police brutality and, white supremacy more important, like when other white children or white families start to be affected by it.
Yeah, Como
Um,
said that. Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
So I was just like, yo, that's
yeah,
like it's true. And I respect that coming from a white ally. You know what I mean? And I just want to say, like, it shouldn't have to take all that. But the truth is the truth. And I hope it doesn't come down to that. But let's stick together as a community, as people, as allies, and try to move forward from this thing. It's gonna be hard, but I think together we'll definitely make it.
yeah, yeah. With that being said, so we have a guest today. We have
Yes.
a city councilor at large. She's a current city councilor at large. She's running for re-election.
Yep.
She's a BPS graduate. She is the first Afro-Latina to serve on the city council. She's also the chair of the Civic Right Committee and the Small Business and Workforce Development Committee. She made history. She won a seat on the council by one vote. Hopefully you get to where we're going right now. But yeah, so our next guest on this podcast is the one and only Councilor at Large, Julia Mejia. Councilor, I gotta say thank you for joining us on this episode today. It's so interesting because it started from your pop-up live and now we are here. For people who don't know, can you tell what your pop-up is about?
Well, it's funny because the pop-up was just something. It's not really anything other than I just usually roll up on people on Instagram. I just go on pop-up live. Who wants to pop through and let me know how they're doing, how they're living, what they're up to. It's just an opportunity for me to connect with people. There was no rhyme or reason other than just like in between some of my Zooms, I was a little bit like I didn't have enough. I was
Yeah.
bored, so like 20 minutes. Let me just see what's going on in people's lives, and so it became a little bit addicting, and so I pop up a lot more than what I am always popping up on people.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a different vibe and creative for people to get in contact with you and just check in. I don't see a lot of people doing that,
Yeah.
and I think it's like one, with millennials and everyone, we use a lot more technology, and that's just another good thing to connect with the people. So I think it's dope. When I saw Rudy on there, I was all like, "Yo, that's
Yeah.
that's dope."
I didn't think she was gonna bring me on. I just went
Yeah.
on there to watch. I didn't know how people were getting on, and I got a request. I was like, "Oh, it's happening. What do I say?" But thank you. We
But
definitely appreciate it.
that's the case for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Is that they get the request and sometimes they're not ready for it. They're like, oh my God, I have a head wrap. I'm like, no, go ahead. Sometimes I go on, I don't even have my eyebrows on, and I just like,
Yeah.
you just show up as you are. And it's right. It's really about an opportunity for me to connect with people.
Yeah.
I literally have people letting me into their homes. I get to see their
Yeah.
artwork. I get to see how they're living, and I love people and I love connecting with people. So it just organically turned into something without me any thinking about it
Yeah.
around.
And thank you for naming. I've definitely been someone the pop up. I see you say it's okay. I'm not ready. Like I don't have anything. Or I don't have anything fancy. Or you can come as you are. Naming that, I'm pretty sure there's some people feel comfortable coming in. But let's dive into like I said, we're excited to have you here. You're a BPS alum, and one thing that struck out to us is you won your seat by one vote. And very often we talk to people, even I must speak for myself, there was a time I did not believe in the voting process. And you know, so now you won by one vote. What do you say to people who may think this voting doesn't matter?
Well, look, if you can't see my life, I'm the poster child now for I'm the one vote wonder. Everybody wonders how in the world we made that happen, right? Um, and that's what they expect. They expect our people to not to show up to the
Yeah.
polls. And because they expect that, we start to believe it. And then we believe that we don't matter, that our vote doesn't count, that what we have to say, no one's listening. And so for us, winning by one vote was really an opportunity to show what is possible when people come out and elect someone that truly represents them and their issues, right? You know, I also covered the presidential elections for MTV in 2000. So, you know, I'm not new to this whole idea of like the importance of your vote and the importance of youth in
Yeah.
particular.
We saw some of the videos, like the energy is there.
Yeah, so I've been at this for a long time, right? So, you know, I think that voting and being civically engaged is the way we're going to disrupt a lot of the systems that we are fighting here right now. And I think the more people show up at the polls, the more we send that message that we do count.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's definitely a good way to look at it. Especially, you know, working with young people, sometimes they feel like their vote doesn't matter. But I think your story is iconic, and it symbolizes that if you show up, um, like things do matter. Your vote does count. Change will come,
Right.
and you are the proof of that. And so I commend you on that. You know, I the one vote wonder, but it's just like, you know, the power of, you know, have your ear to the streets and listening to the people. And you know, our people will show up if you give them something to care about, you
That's
know.
right. And you know, up to that, I'll just say really quick is that, you know, when I went out, everybody was like, you know, focus on the people who go out and vote because
Mm.
those are your sure voters. I said, yeah, and I'm gonna go to the hood. I'm gonna go to the barbershops, to the hair salon, to the laundromats.
Yeah.
And I was crashing baby showers and barbecues. And yo,
Um,
don't invite me to a party because I was talking about, yo, you registered. I was at the train stations, I was at bus stops. Like for me, I always told people, even if you put your own name on the ballot and you don't even remember who I am, but just go out and vote and put your name in it.
Hmm.
Because it was really for us, we always said that would have rather have lost and uplifted our people than neglect us and win, you know? And
Hmm.
and so it wasn't just about winning, it was really about how we were going to run this race that was really going to change the conversation. So, you know, that was really our intention. And look at where we are right now, really showing what is possible. You know,
Right.
and I'm rough around the edges. You know, I got a little swag to me, right? Even though I'm older, but I still got that swag.
Yeah.
Um, and you know, I think that that is also disruptive, right? Like letting people show up as they truly are in any space that they in is giving people permission to just be their full authentic selves, you know.
Right.
yeah.
So getting into our second question, within just 2 months, um, in office, COVID was declared as a national emergency, right? What does advocating look like when you are in a crisis? And what does advocating look like inside, like where you, from your point of view?
Well, yeah. So for people to really appreciate our point of view, it's important to note that we weren't even in office for, I think, probably like 2 or 3 months
Yeah.
before COVID came. And we had to take our entire team remote and we
Yeah.
had to learn how to do our jobs while we were under a global pandemic and racial and civil unrest, right? There was a
Mm.
lot. So to have to learn in public and to learn how to handle the issues that your constituents are facing when they're facing learning loss, jobs, you know, mental health and wellness is like everything that you could possibly imagine, including fireworks, like everything you could possibly imagine
Right.
could go wrong, went wrong during COVID, right? And our first year in office. And so, but I always said, even from the get go, I always, as just who I am, is when you grow up with nothing, you always know how to work with whatever
Yeah.
you have. And so I saw COVID as an opportunity. Like,
Mhm.
how do we seize this moment to change the conversation? How do we seize this moment to really push on systems that we have been neglecting for far too long? And how do we ride out this situation in a way that's going to make sure that we don't go back to normal, because normal was never good enough for us to begin with, right?
Yeah.
So leading under COVID for me was really a blessing in many ways, because I was able to push for things like language access, changing the way we do business. Like, we were able to do a lot of dope things that I think would have probably been a lot harder if I had to do my first year in office under normal circumstances. It gave me an opportunity to be louder about things that probably would have gone unnoticed.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely like I mean the engagement level that you still see you have within the community, it speaks for itself, because very often, and as us as people who vote, we do make that mistake, you know. In our last episode, we're talking about how we trying to get involved in politics because we trying to create change for alumni, for BPS students, but we scared of talking about politics. But politics and policy plays in on the work we do. And I remember as I was watching one of your videos, you said like, you've done the work outside, you need to be inside to do the work. Like, you know, there's a limit to what you can do outside, because I think about all the protests that we went, all the march we do, we had to get permit to get those happen. Those are policy. So I think, like, you know, this is very like informative and inspirational, because now you're a BPS alum, you there, you made it happen. So it's no longer like, oh, the vote don't matter, the vote do matter, so let's get the work in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think people, to really appreciate this BPS situation, people need to know that I went to BPS kindergarten through 12th grade, and I went to every single Boston public school you could imagine, because my mom and I moved around a lot. We were, you know, I found a place. By the time I was in the 5th grade, it was the first time that I stayed in a place long enough to
Yeah.
make friends, right?
Yeah.
And to finish elementary school in one place. And so, and I dropped out of school and I went back.
Yeah.
And I was almost 20 by the time I graduated high school. And I graduated from Dorchester High when it was still Dorchester High, at a time when it used to be called Dunchester, right? So somebody like me, right, who was an English language learner, who came here with nothing from another country, learned how to speak English, watching Sesame Street, right?
Yeah.
Living in a life of poverty, like BPS, you know, I'm proud to be a BPS graduate. I'm here to show that I went to the worst of the worst schools and I'm still standing, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that it's really important for young people who are watching this to understand that your school, you have to show it with pride, and your education is what was, for me, my ticket out of poverty, right?
Yeah.
And I think that I still would probably be selling shoes and working and still being in high school if MCAS were around when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But I managed to get out, and you know, I am incredibly grateful for my education, and that whole notion of young people not being involved. They don't want you to be involved. They make it really difficult for you. They make the language complicated. I have to Google half the things that we're talking about on the council, right? So it's very intentional,
Yeah.
because you know, knowledge is power, and the more knowledge you have, the more powerful you are. And I think that that is why it's so important, at least for our office, for us to educate and share everything that we know with our constituents.
Right.
Yeah, you said this. As you said, you attended a different school, you dropped out of college, but you said you kept going. Can you talk about, like, and that's a story that a lot of our student, like the student we working on, is like, what was the thing that kept you going? What you managed? You said you managed to stay the course, and what was that the thing that kept you going?
Well, um, so my mom used to clean offices, and I used to have to go clean offices with her. I think that she didn't come to this country to be humiliated, but she was. And we were. And I think what helped me stay the course is that I wanted to prove what was possible. And I wanted my mom to see that all of her sacrifices was worth every single effort and everything that she did to get me here. And what also helped me stay the course is that I didn't want to be another statistic. You know? I really felt like I had a responsibility to, I was the first person in my family to graduate high school and, you know, and go to college. And I was the first person to ever even wear a suit.
Wow.
Right. So, you know, what kept the course for me was knowing that my mom worked really hard to come to this country, and I needed to work just as hard to make sure that it wasn't in vain.
A brief conclusion to our first part of the interview. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back with Councilor Rudy Mejia.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We have here Councilor at large, Julia Mejia, who is running for reelection. So getting back into these questions, being a counselor in BPS, I've worked with a lot of students who are thinking about college or trade schools. While there are a ton of resources and opportunities to explore college options, I have not seen the same level of resources for students interested in exploring trades or going to trade schools. So it's clear in BPS that they have a strong college going culture. Where do you see vocational schools coexisting within that culture?
You know, that's a really great question, because not everyone is suited up for college. In fact, you know, as I mentioned, I dropped out. I went back to school. College was, no one was even talking to me about college. And you know, I was making more money selling shoes than my mom was cleaning offices, right? So I think that the city and the whole Boston Public Schools in general needs to do a better job at preparing kids, young people, to graduate college or career ready, right? College or career ready is ensuring that we also look at Madison Park and Voc Tech, right? I'm so glad that you're asking me about Voc Tech, because I just signed up to volunteer to be part of their program advisory council,
Nice.
just to help support Madison Park, because what they have is a communications and a marketing problem. They have a lot of great resources and a lot of great programs, but what they don't have is the financial support from the district pouring in to helping families understand that if you do choose a Voc Tech, your child can make anywhere up to $60,000 a year, right out of high school. There are people who go to college and aren't even making $60,000 a year.
Yeah.
So Voc Tech is really, if we're serious about closing the wealth gap here in the city of Boston, if we're serious in keeping our people here, because we know that housing, the situation is real. Most of us can't even afford to live here. But if we have a direct connection to Voc Tech and good jobs, then we can keep our residents here longer in the city of Boston. So I'm in full support of Madison Park and making sure that as a district, that is not treating them like a stepchild, which is what often we see for Madison Park.
I think they also have the notion of getting all the bad students, you know what I mean? Which is not necessarily true, because a lot of students that are going there, they just need a different type of way of learning. Like traditional school is just not working. And that doesn't mean, you know, they're bad, or it just mean that BPS in general has to learn how to serve these students differently.
That's right. And that's harder to do. So it's easier, Jamal, it's easier for people to just ignore than it is for them to work a little bit harder, right? Because when a teacher calls me about my daughter, whenever they have an issue with her, I always ask, well, what can you have done differently? Because every child learns differently, right? And you can't just do a cookie cutter situation here, right? And I think that what I see at Madison Park is such a tremendous opportunity for us to really put our money where our mouth is, like they literally say, and to support Madison Park students. And also, you know, there are a lot of businesses in the city of Boston. How are they doing business with Madison Park? Like there are graphic designers here, there are advertising agencies. Those advertising agencies can employ the young people who do cosmetology to put your hair and your makeup on. There are people who know graphic design. They can, you know, provide paid internships to some of our students so that they can do career explorations. And that's what I want to bring to Madison Park. I really want to hold the city and myself and those who are doing business in Boston to supporting Madison Park.
Absolutely.
It's so interesting that you bring that up, because one another question we had, and so we went from supporting the student and who are interested in vocational school. Now, for as long as I could remember, anyone who wanted to venture into music, entrepreneurship, or even business, they knew it. It's like like everyone knew you had to move out of Boston to go to New York or Cali to make this happen.
Which is what I did.
Yeah. So how can
I
Boston?
had to leave
Yeah.
Boston to get any opportunities.
Wow.
So how can Boston be a place where a student who's aspiring to be an artist or any of those profession feel like they can thrive in Boston without needing to leave?
Yeah, well, that's one of the things. I'm the chair of small business workforce development and
Yeah.
also on the arts and culture committee. And I think that what I've been doing in my role is really trying to create as many opportunities for entrepreneurs and artists to showcase their work. We opened up our campaign office in 2019 to artists so that they can showcase their work to people who are doing album release parties in my campaign office because there wasn't enough spaces for artists to showcase their work. And so I think that the city can literally open up their doors to
Yeah.
Right.
and I see a lot of restaurants here that every month they can feature a different artist.
Mhm.
And this is, I mean, we have to think outside the box, right? If we're
Yeah.
really serious about supporting the arts, then we need to figure out how we can be innovative and what that's going to look like. And that's the sort of stuff that I like to bring to the table, only because we get so caught up in all of these big ideas, and sometimes these ideas are great, but just the little things that you could do make such a big difference. And I think
Mhm.
just
That was-
I feel like I like to think outside the box
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
supporting
Yeah.
artists and entrepreneurs.
I definitely agree with that. So one of our goals for this podcast is to create a more politically engaged alumni community. People are not involved more people in your opinion, what do you see as the main issue pertaining to more young people um, not being involved in local politics? And I guess how would you get more people, young people involved?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we've been doing in our office is we rebuke the notion that young people are not involved. They are. The problem is that not enough people are giving them the spaces and places
Mhm.
for them to like really show up, right?
Yeah.
So youth are engaged. Don't get it twisted. People got you thinking out here, but listen, young people are the ones who are leading protests. They're the ones who are showing up
Yeah.
at community hearings
Yeah.
and sharing their realities. And so we need more of that, right?
Hmm.
And we need to support young people when they do show up. And one of the things that our office has been doing is creating a pipeline for other young people. We created a Civic Engagement Institute last summer where we trained 12 young people that we hired across the city of Boston on policy making, community engagement, and social media. And the young people that participated in our training last summer, they wrote their own hearing orders,
Wow.
right? So this is really about building the bench and creating an opportunity for young people to not only just build their capacity, but give them a platform. So it requires us stepping to the side and letting young people lead. And sometimes that takes humility. Like some people just ain't ready to be humble.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is that youth are they've been the future. They're the present. I don't even like they're not the future. They're the right now.
Yeah.
And we need to really start thinking about what that looks like, because if we're serious about saying that young people are the future, then we need to give them a space to talk about what that future needs to look like for them. And
Yeah.
so it's about training, educating, and pouring in more support to uplift voice for young people.
Thank you for stating that. Definitely. I think about when I was in college or when I was young, so many times I wanted to get involved with stuff, and I was too young. And now that I'm seeing all those um young folks joining in, and we even have a high school student running for city councilor district 4. So as we definitely it's time. It's been time. So we need to give them their shot.
Yeah.
Um,
I Can I say one thing?
yeah,
I think something that you said that was like striking is that, we sometimes people that are in power or that are working with young people have to give them a chance to be involved, or to, it takes a certain type of a certain amount of humility to let young people step up, and a certain amount of trust.
That's right.
And I think that is definitely something that we need to see more of, because we are always making decisions for, like, students, or this is what students need. They need this, but sometimes they don't have that voice to say, well, I'm here. Like, I know what I need. Can I have a voice?
Yeah, you know what I always say is that nothing about us without us is for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes people are talking about us and literally making decisions for us, about us. And then when they do invite us to the table, they ask us to sit in the damn kitchen.
Right.
Invite us to the table, they give us a menu of options and terms and conditions of how we're going to show up.
Right.
So this whole notion about youth voice and just engagement needs to really be grounded on the fact that they're the ones who are living these realities. They're the ones who should be informing every decision that elected officials make, period.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. So this next question is something that we wonder why it's not happening, but we do believe that having an elected school committee would be better suited for Boston. From what we noticed, that Boston might be the only city in Massachusetts who's like that. I just wanted to ask you your opinion. What do you think? Like, do you think it's important to have an elected school committee rather than an appointed school committee?
Well, I believe in a fully elected school committee, right? I don't think that we have proven time and time again that unless you have people who are going to represent the people because you get elected by them, that's going to change the game. So I'm in full support of a fully elected, not of a hybrid.
Yeah.
I'm radical with all my thoughts. I don't want to. I want it all. I want
Thank you.
fully elected. Period.
Yeah. Some of the counter argument against us fully elected was like from what I've read, like the people will not be involved, and all people will have their own agenda. And I feel like this is some scary tactic to keep people away from. I say, give us full elected
Power.
position. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Councilor, thank you for today to joining us. That's our time. We wish you well on your campaign.
Thank you.
Um,
And can
just
I
want
tell people how they can reach me?
yes, yeah, that's what we're gonna say. Just final, like, if you wanna share any final thoughts with people, go ahead. You have the floor.
Thank you. Because I was going to take the floor, whether you gave it.
Oh no, we were. Yes.
Yeah. So no. Thank you so much, you both, for interviewing me and for inviting me to be here as a proud BPS alum. I think we need to see more of us in spaces like this. So thank you for the opportunity. As you mentioned, I am running for reelection this year, September. So those who are over 18, please make sure that you go out and vote.
Yeah.
We're also pushing to lower the voting age to 16. So we filed a home rule petition in the city of Boston, and we also passed the civilian review board, and we fought to have a young person be appointed to that panel, and we fought really hard to making sure that gets paid, that position is paid for the youth. And so anyways, I'm all things youth, so that's my passion. And if you want to pop up, find me anywhere, you can do so on Julia for Boston on any social media, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So that's Julia for Boston. And my phone number is 617-635-4217. And no, I'm just really grateful for the opportunity. BPS all day, every day. Thank you.
Thank you. And I can't count how many times you say how proud you are from BPS, and that's not a lot of people who does that. We are proud, so but like we need to have have that feeling, like, for more people, because sometimes it's hard to be proud of the system that was that's not treating you well or didn't treat you well. But we are proud BPS, and we're committed to the change. We want change.
You have to be. You have to be. I'm look. I'm I know what I'm, it's like that badge of honor. Like I survived,
Yeah.
I survived this, and look, I'm still standing. Like BPS. Everybody has its flaw. Everything has its flaws, right?
Yeah.
Anyone does too. But like, I think life is what you make of it, and I'm here for all of it. And I think that BPS set down the foundation for me.
Mm-hmm.
And BPS has a marketing problem. They're doing some really great work, and they just need a lot more support to showcase that work.
Right.
All right.
Definitely.
Thank you again, Counselor. Looking forward to learning more from you, to hearing more from you. And thank you for the work you do.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night, okay?
You too. Have a good one. Welcome back to our final thoughts, everyone. It's been a great conversation with Counselor at Large, Julia Mejia, as she is running for reelection. And we are just going to give you our final thoughts. What you think, Rudy?
I think it was great. She's the one vote wonder, right?
One vote wonder is what she calls
Wonder
herself.
herself. And she went in, but I like how she's found a way to still communicate, involve the people. This is how we ended up bringing her on the podcast, because she invited us to a pop-up live.
Yeah.
Like some of the stuff she's working on, from the civic engagement she has for young students, to everything she's doing in her role as a committee chair of small business and workforce development. So yeah, and she's one of us.
Yeah.
So we definitely like some of the like what she's doing and how she's creating space. I like one of the things that stood out that she said, and which, like, speaks so much, like, of like some of the system and room that we like leadership that are in place, but we're not involved. So she said nothing about us without us.
Yes. Yes.
For us.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was like, oh my God, like that's so true. And that's why representation matters. And not only because with representation come intentionality and representation, which is so key.
Right.
I'm glad there's one of us at the table. I want more of us. We need to educate ourselves on policy. We need to educate ourselves on and be comfortable having those conversations, because that's where the change happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a few things that I liked about our conversation and just about her in general. She's very authentic.
Yeah.
And I think that really matters when you're dealing with our community. I feel like there's a lot of distrust between like political like I don't want to call them servants, but like political people, I guess, officials in our communities. And when you have someone that is authentic and that cares, that shows up to in your community just because, like,
you know why you see authenticity? Because it's one of us.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you see, you recognize it. Yeah. But I want to also say, like, we want more of us, to be in room making decision about us.
Yeah.
But also we need to hold us accountable.
Yeah.
We elect accountable. Yeah. We cannot no longer, like we did with Obama.
Yeah.
And just like, yeah,
it's like, okay, he's there.
It's okay, he's there.
Yeah.
So, like, we need to show up, and that's why it's big that, like, she still does this pop-up life and inviting people to have this discussion. Like, she won't hold her accountable. It's okay to disagree. Yeah. And still be a fan of someone.
Exactly.
Like, like it's okay. We need to be okay to have that conversation, and we need to be okay to be involved in politics.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
No, I totally agree. And I think that's a major thing as well. The other two things that I did like is her passion for young people. I think because they are the future, whether we like it or not,
Yeah.
and we need to invest in them. Um,
Now.
now,
Yeah.
exactly.
Not later. Now.
And the other thing, similar to what you said, small businesses, um, you know, investing in what was it, the arts
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
our community. I think that the form of I didn't always appreciate it when I was younger, but I
Yeah.
see how valuable it is now since I'm working with young people, like having an outlet to do music, to draw, to paint, to act. I feel like those things are our students need, our community needs in a form of expression because it helps with their mental health as well. So I think that it's I'm glad that she's fighting for that as well. But overall, I think um, I'm happy that to have her in a seat, and you know, um, I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes next.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, so yeah, get involved in your local politics, get connected, learn about the candidate. We have a municipal election coming on in November. We need to educate ourselves about the councilor, everyone who's running. So we
Everyone.
councilors and the mayor, we need to educate them about now, like we need to like find out who's gonna be of our interest. Um,
Exactly.
um, yeah, and then we need to ask them question, hold them accountable. Who do you think we should bring on next in the podcast?
Yep.
Let us know in the comment, like message us. If you want to come in, you're an official, you're watching this, you want to come in, let us know. We want to have this conversation. We want to be more involved because we talk about change.
Mm-hmm.
Change doesn't happen without politics, without
Right.
policy. We need to, and we need to show up, and we need to create a more involved alumni community, politically engaged alumni community. So yeah, join us.
Exactly. I'm fully supported that. This is what we're using this platform for. We're very excited. We have a few more things lined up for coming up, so I'm excited, man.
Yeah, we working.
Yeah, we are.
We working. It's a lot of work, but yeah. Thank you again, guys.
Thanks. This is straight out of BPS
Podcast.